The memorial sat quiet on the edge of the base. A curved wall of dark granite, etched with names that caught morning light like ripples on water. No music, no guards, just flagstone underfoot and the sound of wind off the ocean. Recruits came here once, early in their training. They were told not to speak, just observe, breathe, walk the names. Most came once. Some never returned, but one did. Connor Blake, 23, bruised ankle, stuck on base duty while the rest of his class trained inland. He walked the same loop every morning. Ice. Stretch. Wait. Too much time. Too little purpose. That's when he first noticed the old man. Out there before sunrise. Gray watch cap. Brown jacket. Holding a broom like it mattered. He never used a leaf blower, never rushed. Just swept the stones slow and steady, like it was a ritual. Connor never saw him arrive. He was just there, each morning, sweeping between the names and the wind. He didn't talk to the officers who passed, didn't nod to the instructors, just kept his head down and cleared the walkway like the job was sacred. One morning, Connor showed up earlier than usual, and saw something strange. The old man wasn't sweeping. He was standing, still, right in front of the far end of the wall, where the granite curved toward the sea. His head was bowed, not in prayer, in conversation. No one else was around. But Connor watched him lift one hand, just for a second, and rest it on the stone like he was touching someone's shoulder. Then he said something, too quiet to hear. But the sound, even without words, felt heavier than the wind. Connor stepped back without meaning to. The man didn't turn, didn't move, just stood there, hand to the wall, as if waiting for something only he could hear in return. The next morning, Connor came early on purpose. Not for therapy, not for orders, just to see if the old man would be there again. He was. Same jacket, same slow steps, same worn broom dragging soft across the stone. Connor stayed back near the bench, pretending to stretch. But his eyes tracked every movement. The man moved differently than other base staff, not like someone passing time, like someone keeping watch. When he finished the walkway, he turned to check the flagpole, adjusted the line, tugged once to tighten the slack. Then, just as the light broke clean across the horizon, he walked toward the far end of the wall again. Same spot, same pause. This time, Connor stepped forward, not close, just enough to be noticed. The old man glanced over once, didn't smile, didn't scowl, just looked. Connor nodded, awkward. You work here long? The man studied him a second, then turned back to the wall. Long enough. His voice was dry, solid, not worn out, just quiet from use. Connor cleared his throat. Didn't think civilians had clearance for this part of the base. The man didn't answer. Connor took a half-step closer. You talked to the wall, he said. I saw you. The broom handle shifted slightly in the man's grip. He didn't look over. You ask questions when you're not ready to hear the answer? Connor blinked. Excuse me? The man turned now, slow, deliberate. Eyes like weathered steel. Calm. Heavy. You listened to names yet? He asked. Connor hesitated. They're just carved. They're not carved, the man said. They're left. A long pause followed. Then the man adjusted the broom in his hands, and began walking again. Back to the entrance. Back to the silence. Connor didn't move. Didn't stretch. Just stood there, watching the trail the broom had left behind. A clean line between names and dust. 2 days later, a busload of visiting ROTC candidates rolled through the base. Mostly college age. Bright-eyed. Polished boots. Polos tucked in too tight. They were assigned a memorial visit as part of their itinerary. 15 minutes. Walk the wall. Show respect. Connor was there already. He stood near the far bench again, ankles still braced, watching the groundskeeper sweep the walkway in his usual pattern. Slow, even, every motion measured. Most of the recruits filed through quietly. Some paused at the flag. One took a picture of the names, until an instructor quietly shook his head. But near the tail end of the group, a cluster of 3 slowed near the far edge. One of them, tall, loud, already walking like he'd earned a rank, nudged his friend and pointed at the old man. Bet he's been sweeping this place since Vietnam, he said. The other snorted. Another added. Looks like he missed a few spots. The broom paused. The old man didn't turn, didn't flinch. But something in his shoulders stiffened slightly. Connor stepped forward. Hey! The 3 looked up. Connor kept his voice low, but steady. You don't speak here unless you've earned it. The tall one smirked. We were just joking, man. Connor didn't blink. Yeah? Try doing it where someone can't hear you bleed. The words hung heavy in the air. The group shifted, mumbled something, and walked on, suddenly quiet. The old man didn't move, but as Connor stepped back to the bench, he heard it. Didn't need to do that, the old man said. Connor shrugged. Someone should. The man resumed sweeping. But as he passed, he spoke again, barely audible over the wind. Most people don't notice what they're standing on until it's gone. Connor turned to say something, but the man was already walking away, broom dragging soft against the stone. He didn't look back. Didn't need to. That night, Connor couldn't shake it. The old man's voice. The way he stood in front of the wall like it was still speaking to him. So after evening mess, he cut through the back path near admin and slipped into the archives office. It was barely staffed after hours, just a sleepy petty officer running inventory on service plaques. Connor waited until she left for coffee, then sat down at the terminal and opened the internal directory. He didn't have a name, but he had a detail. The far end of the memorial, where the man always stopped, had its own section. A panel marked, Seal 03 Bay Cut. Connor typed it in. Up came a dated maintenance log. 2 entries. One from 10 years ago. Stone reset after storm damage. Work done by retired personnel, voluntary. Second entry 5 years ago. Request to preserve original cut line. Submitted by T. Harlow. Connor paused. That was a name. He copied it, then ran a base-wide record check. Nothing in active rosters, nothing in contractor logs, just a single archived entry, a transfer request from 2003. Master Chief Thomas Harlow. SEAL Team 2. Retired following injury during rescue op. No commendation requested. Final note, declined ceremony. Volunteered for grounds duty. No photo. Just a line at the bottom of the file. Last seen, memorial site, pre-dawn shift. Connor leaned back in the chair. Let the name settle. Master Chief. The man with the broom. The man who never raised his voice, never wore his past, never told anyone who he was. But still came back, every morning, to sweep the names, and speak to the wall. The next morning, the old man wasn't there. Connor noticed right away. The walkway was still covered in leaves from the night wind. Flag rope loose. No broom prints on the stone. He checked his watch. Too late for Harlow to just be running behind. He waited 15 minutes. Nothing. 20. Still no sign. Connor walked the edge of the memorial slowly, unsure why it felt heavier without him. He reached the far end, the curve where Harlow always stood. That's when he saw it. Resting against the base of the wall, where the granite met the earth, lay a folded cloth, not accidental, not dropped. Placed. Connor knelt. It was a watch cap, same one Harlow always wore, faded black, threadbare around the brim. Tucked inside, something heavier. He opened it carefully. A patch. Old, frayed, trident insignia. Red stitching nearly worn away. The kind they stopped issuing years ago. Wrapped inside it, a note. Small, handwritten. For whoever listens, they don't need your strength, they need your stillness. You'll understand when you stop trying to. No name. But he didn't need one. Connor stood slowly, holding the cap in one hand, the patch in the other. He looked at the wall. The light was just starting to catch the names, the ones at the far end. The ones no one ever asked about. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there, the way Harlow used to. Back straight, eyes forward, listening. Harlow didn't return. Not that day, not the one after. No one said it officially. There was no notice, no briefing. Just an empty path in the morning, a silent flagpole, and a broom that never left the maintenance shed again. Connor kept showing up, even after his ankle healed, even after they cleared him back into rotation. He still came, still before dawn, still walked the edge of the wall, slow and steady, the same route Harlow had taken. He didn't sweep, didn't speak, but on the 7th day, he did one thing different. He brought the cap, and set it on the bench near the far end of the memorial. No label, no explanation, just placed it gently, and walked on. Word started to spread, not from him, but from others, an instructor who noticed the patch on Connor's locker, a recruit who saw him standing at the wall long after everyone else had left. One morning, someone left a folded cloth next to the broom in the shed. Another day, A recruit paused mid-run to nod toward the stone and say, quietly, "Morning, Chief." No one told them to. No one had to. By the third week, the walkway was swept again. Not by one person. By many. They took turns, quietly, without being asked, because somehow, in the silence Harlow left behind, something stayed. Not duty. Not history. Just presence. The kind that doesn't need a voice to be heard. Connor stopped wearing the patch on his locker. He stitched it instead, into the inside lining of his field jacket. Not for display. Just to keep it close. He never told anyone about the note. Never explained the cap on the bench. But people started noticing how he moved. Slower. Calmer. Like he was listening for something others couldn't hear. When instructors ran their cadets through the memorial tour, they found Connor already there, standing near the wall, hands behind his back. He didn't speak. He didn't guide. But when someone cracked a nervous joke, they caught his eye, and that was enough. One morning, a new recruit stopped beside him. Young, quiet, fidgeting with his collar. He glanced at the rows of names, then at Connor. "Sir?" he said, voice low. "Do you come here every day?" Connor nodded. "Why?" Connor looked toward the far end of the wall. The same panel. The same stone. Then said, "Because someone did before me." The recruit followed his gaze. "Did they know someone on there?" Connor didn't answer right away. Then, "They knew all of them." The recruit swallowed hard. "Were they an officer?" Connor shook his head. "Didn't need to be." A long silence passed between them. Then the recruit asked, "Were they a SEAL?" Connor looked at the names, at the clean stone, at the swept walkway, at the cap still resting where it had always been, then finally said, "They were the reason we still get to be." The recruit didn't ask more, just stood a little straighter, a little quieter, and for the rest of the visit he didn't look at his shoes once. It was raining the morning the new class passed through. Not hard, just a steady mist that made the granite wall gleam like wet ink. The recruits were quiet. Something about the weather. Or maybe it was the man already standing there when they arrived. Connor didn't face them. He stood with his back to the path, facing the far panel. Jacket zipped, hands in his pockets. Motionless. The instructors gave their briefing. Short. Respectful. Then stepped aside. No one moved toward Connor. But they watched. And when the wind shifted they heard it. Not loud. Not clear. But enough. Connor spoke to the stone. Just a few words. Like a check-in. Or maybe a promise. One recruit asked later what he said. No one answered. Because no one needed to. Connor stayed until the last boot left the flagstone. Then walked slowly toward the far bench. The cap was still there. Faded. Soft from rain. He didn't take it. Didn't touch it. Just looked at it for a while. Then turned back to the wall. The names were beading with water now. Little drops trailing down the etched letters like tears that didn't ask permission. He didn't wipe them. Didn't need to. He stepped back, stood tall, and gave a single, steady nod. To no one. And to everyone. Then walked away. No ceremony. No farewell. Just boots fading into mist, and the sound of wind passing over names that hadn't been spoken in years, but were never truly silent. Not while someone still stood watch.